Yeah, hi guys, I'm back again. So, in this video, I'll be talking about the real-time single table initial load and chain sync. So, how things are done and executed in the real time. In the last video, we have seen how to perform the initial load and configure the chain sync. So, let us revise what we have seen earlier, and then I'll get back to the real-time process. But before I proceed further, let me tell you guys, this activity is your assignment. So you need to complete this activity looking at this document. Okay, I'll just walk you through the process and how things work. So first of all, what is initial load? So on the source we have single table. Just an example, we can have multiple tables as well, and in this table we have 100 rows. Okay, and on the target we just have a table structure. Okay, so we only have table structure, but there are no rows, 0 rows. Fine. Now in this case, what happens is, let's take client tells us to configure the replication. What we need to do is, first we need to configure the change sync. Okay, we configure the change sync. Give me a minute, guys. Okay, so we need to configure the chain sync, but we do not have to start the replicat. Okay, replicat will be down. Okay, and then second we need to configure the initial load. Now once you start the initial load, and wait, sorry, wait until it completes. And finally what we do is start the replicat. Perfect. This is how we have seen the process in the last video. Now after starting the replicat, what we can do is we can delete the initial load, extract, and replicat process. Perfect. This is what we have seen. And also we know that in the initial load, in the IL, the source is always stable. It reads from the table. That means table is the source. And in the change synchronization, change sync. In the change synchronization, the logs are nothing but the redo transaction or LCRs or the archive logs are the source for the change sync extract, right? Now there are some conditions over here, and we need to understand those conditions before we get into the real-time process. So let us understand those conditions one by one. I'll give you two conditions. There might be more, but these are the two basic ones. Okay, so let me take a new paint. Now understand guys, I have a table, and this is the table for which I want to configure the initial load. Okay, now I configured everything. The chain sync is configured, like extract is configured. Okay, extract is writing to source trails, and from source trails we have data pump, then we have target trails, and from target trails we have the replicat, but replicat is down. Correct, that is how we configure. And then this is the target table, which is just empty. We just have column headers. We have also configured the initial load. Okay. Now in this configuration, we did not start initial load, or we did not start the chain sync. It is just configured. So we have some 100 rows over here. Now scenario number one. Okay, if you remember, first we have to start the extract. We'll go with the startup sequence. Okay, so I'll write it over here. First, change sync. I'll just write CS, change sync extract. We have to start this one, right? And then I have to start the data pump. And third, okay, we actually don't start the replicat. Okay, these are the two processes I have to start. Now understand, I have started these two processes, but I did not yet start the initial load. I'm about to start. At this stage, suddenly a user tries to insert some data into this table. Okay, so now understand, we are assuming there are a few transactions like one insert, one update, and one delete has happened. Okay, and user has committed the transaction. Perfect. So understand, guys, these transactions will definitely be captured by the extract, correct? So that means these changes are there in this source trail file. Data pump will push these changes onto the target. These changes are there in the target trail file. Okay, my replicat is not running. I'm just saying user has executed some transactions even before I start the initial load, because in real time definitely transactions will continue to run. We don't have any control on it. So now if I start the initial load, at this stage I start the initial load, these changes are already done inside this table, correct? So that means these changes are available at two places. First of all, the initial load will copy the table as it is onto the target. So we got all the 100 rows along with these changes, because before I started the initial load, these changes were already committed. Perfect. So in the initial load, I have got these transactions over here, and these transactions are already there in the table. Now these same three transactions are also there in the target trail files, correct? Because our extract process was started before the initial load. So the extract has captured those transactions and data pump has pushed those transactions to target trail. Now, once the initial load completes, okay, the third one is start initial load. So we have started the initial load has completed. After initial load is completed, we will start the replicat. Start change sync replicat. Perfect. Now when I start the replicat, what happens? Question mark, right? So what will happen, because these transactions are already there inside this table? These update, insert, delete is already happened because initial load got those transactions over here. So what will happen? The good news is nothing will happen, because Golden Gate is very intelligent and it has become intelligent only from the 12c version. It knows what all transactions are already gone onto the target table, and it will ignore these transactions which are already there on the target table, and it will continue to apply any other transactions that are available in the target trail file. Okay, this is good, but still, as a DBA, we should have more control on what transactions goes onto the target table, right? So how can we have more control? I'll talk about more control in some time, but before that, guys, there is something called as handle collisions. In Golden Gate, we have a lot of collisions. That's a separate topic. We'll be talking about it later. But for now, the collisions is not the topic right now. Currently, the topic is like if we have chain synchronization configured and initial load configured, what will happen to the transactions which are issued even before we start the initial load? So the answer is nothing will happen. Now in real time, you cannot, as a DBA, over here we can see that, okay, there were 3 transactions. It's easy to consider this kind of example, but in real time we need more control. We need a solid way to identify, okay, how things are working. So the benefit in real time, or actually in Golden Gate that you have is, see on the target we have replicat, right? So what we can do is on the source, okay, I need to draw it again. So this is the source and one is the target. We have the extract. Okay, extract sends to source trail sent to data pump sends to target trail, and then it is read by replicat. I have an initial load. This is initial load configured. Now understand guys, before we start the initial load, what we do is, see, extract process is started. When you start the extract process, note down the database SCN number. Okay, so when you note down the DB SCN number, what is the benefit? Now start the extract, note down the database SCN number, and then you start the initial load. So the initial load will get all the rows from the source to target, right? So once we have like 100 rows from source to target, now when you start the replicat, there is a clause. You can actually start the replicat from a particular SCN. So let us assume we have 1001 as the SCN number. Now in the target trail files, I will definitely have transactions which are before 1001. Okay, see, I start the extract, then I check the SCN number. So that means during the time you started the extract and while you are checking the SCN, there might be some transactions, right? So I am assuming 950 was the SCN when we started the extract. Okay, and then the current SCN number when we checked, it was 1001. So my target trails will contain the data, and also there are further transactions which are going. I am assuming 2001 is the latest SCN number. So that means my target trails consists of transactions from the start of the extract. Okay, but before starting initial load, what we do is we capture the SCN number. That means 1001 is the SCN number. And now sorry guys, so now once the initial load is completed, I will start the replicat stating that to apply the transactions only after the SCN number 1001, because see, 950 to 1001 are already copied from here till there, from source to target. So you might still have questions. Okay, Arun, what if still we have some transactions which were captured in the extract and the transactions were pushed from the initial load? It happens, right? The earlier example that we have seen. If that is the case, 12c Golden Gate is smart enough to understand what all transactions are already applied, and it won't reapply those transactions. Now to understand this thing, the next activity is designed for same. Okay, so in this activity what we are going to do is we are going to see the real-time scenario where we will actually execute some transactions before starting the initial load. Okay, so what we are going to see, I'll just demonstrate it once again. So we have this department table, right? I mean, we are taking a new table, and on the target also we are creating a department table. Now what we are doing is we are wantedly creating a scenario. So we have a change sync configured. Okay, this is change sync. In the change sync, this is the replicat. Replicat is down right now. We have extract which is running. We have data pump which will be running. Okay, so what we do is, as per our understanding, first always in a configuration of initial load, what we need to do is we need to start the extract, we need to start the data pump. Okay, after starting this one, what we are going to do is we will be making changes inside the database. So that means we have some transactions. These transactions will be captured by extract. The transactions will again be pushed by data pump onto the target. On the target, however, replicat is down. And before starting the initial load, what we will do is we'll capture the database SCN number. So after capturing the SCN number, then we'll start the initial load. Okay. Once the initial load is started, remember these changes are now at two places. First of all, these changes are replicated onto target from the initial load, and these changes are also there onto the target trail because earlier extract has captured those transactions, correct? So what we do is later on, when we start the replicate, we will actually start the replicate from this particular SCN number. So the replicate will read the transactions from the target trail only after the SCN number that we specify, and then it will continue to apply the transactions on the department table. So this is what we are going to see in this activity. I mean, this activity is all about this, how it is done in real time. So the real time initial load is little different than our previous initial load activity. In this activity, we have this department table and we are using the same Fox and Tom schema. So first you create the department table from the Scott.department and then add a primary key to the department table. Then on the target, just create the department table without any data into it. Okay. So you need to generate the DDL statement. It's same. Now first we configure the change synchronization for the department table. That's the first thing, right? And we will be proceeding with the adding the extract process, then enter the parameter file. See, entire process is same. You configure the extract, data pump and replicate. Later on you start the manager on both. Now configure the initial load extract. Even the initial load extract is also same. The way you start the change sync is different in this case. So first we start the change sync extract and data pump on source. This will start capturing changes while we perform the initial load. Do not start the replicate at this point. So you just start the extract and data pump. At this stage, capture the database SCN number. We will start the replicate on target from this SCN onwards. So capture the current SCN number. Now, as I mentioned earlier, before starting the initial load, we will be making some transactions by ourselves. So let us make an update into department table. This update will be captured by both initial load and also the change capture. Later we can analyze how Golden Gate handles conflicts. Now this update, remember this update, I have already configured the change synchronization, right? So this update will be captured by my extract process, and now I am about to start the initial load. That means in the initial load also my updated record will go to the target database, correct? So what we do is now start the initial load extract. Remember, this will automatically start the initial load replicate on target. We already know this. So verify on target if all the 4 records have been loaded on target table or not. Just check after initial load. Now let us make some changes on department table, and if everything goes well, we must see these changes after starting the replicate. So this is one more level of complexity I have added. Even after the initial load is completed, we are still trying to make some changes inside the source table. That means this must again be captured by the extract and pushed onto the target. Now start the change sync replicate. Now see, this is the syntax. Start dfox r2 after SCN number and give the initial load SCN. Whatever the SCN number you have captured earlier, you can give it over here. Okay, so your replicate will replicate only the transactions after that SCN has been executed. So at this stage, you can delete the initial load extract and replicate process as they are no longer needed. So guys, this is your assignment, and in case you have any doubts in this assignment, you can write back to me. I know it might be a little confusing, but that is how things work. In case if you still have doubts, in our next session, I will take out time to explain you this one once again. Okay. And one request, guys, it's a personal request, try to do this activity at least 4 times. Why I'm saying 4 times? Because this is one activity that actually helps you to answer a lot of interview questions, and this is the heart of Golden Gate. I mean, if you know how to configure initial load and change sync, that's it. That is what Golden Gate is. So 4 times a personal request, please do it. Okay guys, till then, take care. Bye bye.